All right, late. Thanks, bro.
Hey, no problem. Good luck.
Oh my goodness, what's up, party people of the SFL? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Can you hear me and can you see me? Let me know what's going on in the chat if you can see me and if you can hear me. It looks like things are good on my end. A little note here. Wink is taking some time off, so I am having to run this whole shindig myself. So be prepared for many mistakes this evening. It could turn into a shit show. Who knows for sure? But only time will tell. So in the meantime, quit talking about your end. Hey, yo. In the meantime, welcome to season 16, episode 12 of Axis Live. I'm your host, Dave Axis, and I think I need a little light. Let me see. Let me turn this bad boy on. Oh, it's not working. I guess this is what you guys are going to get me. I don't know why my light's not working. It's just not working. So hopefully I'm not too dark for you. I'm your host, Dave Axis. We have another great show tonight. We've got 4 panelists, as always, tonight. How you like my Atlanta Swarm Season 14 champion shirt? That's what's up, because I was part of that championship team with them. We're going to have Week 6 recaps tonight. What a Week 6, too. All the mighty have fallen, right? Down goes Frazier, the whole 9 yards. So Yes, Ramos, good game for you guys on Saturday, which we'll be talking about right out the gate. We got Gunny's Pearls of Wisdom. We're going to have the Week 6 Diva of the Week nominees. Tyler will be here to let us know what is next on NETMA. And then a very special After Dark guest is Cameron Irvine. I don't know if you guys know him. He's kind of like a big deal around this joint. So he'll be on, and him and I will be talking, mid-season report cards, what's been great, what hasn't been, how the playoff picture looks. He actually has the playoff picture ready to rock and roll starting for Week 6. So we got all that. All right, all that being said, let's check out, boom, the party people in the house. Let's see. Starting with Nate Hall was the first one in. Mighty Joe Young, Will Todd, Bailey 030. Bailey, I feel like I've seen your name before, but it's maybe been a while. I don't know. Freddie's here, of course. The lovely and amazing Pink Lisa. Charles is in the house. David Leathers, Bob Funk, Bullet Belitsky, Will Todd, Gunny, I think I already said Gunny. Benji, M. Davis. Oh, Davis is here. Good to see you, buddy. From Portland. Tyler Falk, of course. Tom Rahman. Ramos is in the house. Let me see. Eddie Gage, what up, though? Dwayne is here, the long arm of the law. You know he's waiting and chomping at the bit to hear what we have to say about that Houston game. Bryant Dynasty, what's up, bro? How you doing? Ron Cochran's in the house. Bo Martin Jr., my boy's here. David Harrell. James Walters, 87. Marco Swift. Him and Law, those rookies back there, amazing. Oh, look at my old boss just popped in. Mark, what's up? Do you see the shirt I'm wearing today, bro? Season 14 championship at ATL, baby. What's up? Let me see. Hugo's in here. Ryan Owens just popped in. Ray. I didn't skip you. I see you. You got to give me a second, baby. You got to give me a second, man. All right, I think that's it. That was the last. I think Ray was the last one to pop in. So maybe we should meet our panelists. Bullet Boletsky says, I'm definitely on the bad end of a surefire diva moment nominee this week. We shall see. Marco Swift, that was muted, LOL. All right, let me see. I got a lot of gadgets going on. I got a lot of screens, so you guys are going to have to bear with me. In the unscripted circle this evening, we have the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hey, you got a promotion to the NFL. You thought you got a promotion here. The Jacksonville Kings. This is what happens when I have to concentrate too many things. I have no idea what I'm saying. Mr. Mike All. Mike All, what's up, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me here, Dave. What's going on?
What's going on with you? We got the whole bald thing going on. I couldn't wear a hat today. It was just too warm, too hot.
Yeah, you can't put a hat on this head.
That's what I'm saying, right? I mean, bald is beautiful. Why would you cover this up? I don't know. I guess
Exactly.
I need to change my logo to take the hat off and just have sunglasses and a bald head with an Axis tattoo across my forehead. What do you think about that?
That works.
Yeah, I think that might work. Yeah, Lisa would kill me probably. In the unfiltered circle tonight, another great-looking guy that usually has glasses, a hat, and a gray goatee. Of course, I am talking about the one and only Benji Matson. Benji, what's up, bro?
What's up, Dave? What's up, Super Friends?
Super Friends. The long arm of the law in chat says he's all in for an Axis tattoo on my dome. Yeah, you try to talk Pink Lisa into that, bro. It's knock yourself out, I guess. In the unedited circle this evening, we have my boy from the glorious Lone Star Glory, cornerback, Mr. Bo Martin Jr. Bo, what's up? Oh,
glorious Tuesday evening. Hey, what's up, Dave? I'm not muted, bro. You hear me?
I was about to say that.
It's a glorious Tuesday evening. Good to see you. Good to see everybody.
It is glorious Tuesday evening. Let me see here. Let me clear that off of there. And then last but certainly not least, and everybody knows, he's always in the unforgettable circle when he's here because of his unforgettable predictions. The number one draft pick. It is Mr. Tyler Falk. What's up?
Dave, let's get it out of the way. 2-10 is dead. Atlanta get their third win of the season. Therefore, my name is Mud.
Well, let's
Hey,
see.
don't steal my script, Tyler.
I was gonna say. I don't know why I didn't think of hooking you up with the Atlanta game. What was I thinking? I should have been
Oh,
all
I
over
don't
that.
know.
I should have been all of that. All right, let me see if I can. Let me see. Does that go? Oh, boom! It does. It goes to the games. All right. So that was the slate that we had for week 6. I put that in there, so actually just so I could buy myself some time. Here's the deal. What a week, you guys. I mean, the two last unbeaten teams fall. There are a couple other upsets we're going to talk about. Sioux Falls gets their first win. I mean, a lot happened, and there's a lot to talk about in week 6. So let's jump into it. Here's the other deal. I got to try to man this 3-minute timer. So you guys are going to have to be cool about this. So let me get it all set up first. Let me see. Oh, that's what it was. Hold on. Why do I not have games? Uh-oh. See, this is why I need Winkler. That came on fine. Why don't I have games? This is not good. Ah, I knew it. I knew I'd have it there somewhere. All right. See? It's not all tragedy here so far. All right, Michael, let's start with you. A game I really don't want to talk about that much, but as you talk about this game, one of the things I wanted to ask you is what's going on with Lone Star? We have some of the best wins this season, beating Florida, beating Jacksonville, but we just can't seem to put a streak together, right? We can't put a whole game together. Like the Houston game, for example, we did 3 quarters we didn't play. We just showed up in the 4th quarter, almost stole the game, but we still lost. While you're talking about this game, how Mexico City kind of worked us, tell me your thoughts on what is wrong with Lone Star this season.
I think you guys are just figuring out ways to beat yourself. I mean, you've got the talent, you've got the ability. You guys you're not performing up to last year's standards. You guys can get it done. You're finding ways to give it to the other team. I mean, if you look at the stats for this one, you guys are pretty much even stat wise. Total yards is only 21 yards apart. Passing yards is almost about the same amount. Rushing yards is 1 yard apart. First downs, you guys were 1 apart. Third down conversions, you guys were even. You guys were pretty close. The big difference here was the touchdowns. You guys just didn't want to get in the end zone. And Dave, can you tell us why you didn't want to get in the end zone?
Well, I don't know. I have a feeling somebody will talk about it again later. But, here's the thing. I felt bad for Fox and Ramos and them. And I, by the time I actually had a chance to get in the end zone in that 4th quarter, it was like, what's the point? I'm not going to just pad stats. I'm not the Moses Malone of the SFL. I'm not just going to pad my stats, bro. So I let it go.
I get it. But, you guys had the number 1 run defense coming into this game against the number 1 run offense. And Phoenix Jones, he took control of the game and got it done for Mexico City. He ran all over you. Coach couldn't stop him enough. He did a great job. Matt Wilson did a great job. They were a well-oiled machine against you guys, and they got it done. And Phoenix Jones, deservedly so, got player of the game, 107 yards and 2 touchdowns to overcome your guys' number 1 rush defense. Like I said, despite that number 1 rush defense, you guys keep finding ways to beat yourself.
That's the thing, right? And so first, let me go out on a limb and say I'm very happy for Phoenix. Phoenix and I are kind of tight. We were rookies in season 14 together. I think we got drafted 1 or 2 spots apart. When he made the move from fullback to running back, I was really happy for him. I'm glad to see that that his transition is finally coming full circle. I was also happy for Fox High when I believe did Fox have a touchdown?
He had a massive touchdown.
Yeah. I see. I tried to already delete that from my memory. Mike, thanks for bringing that up again.
Mm-hmm.
And plus the thing is you never want to bet against Ramos, right? I mean, Ramos always seems to have a good game plan no matter what. Matt Wilson, almost 300 yards, but only 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Ace doesn't throw a touchdown, but he throws 1 interception. Again, not terrible. What was the biggest difference in the game, Mike?
The biggest difference was the touchdowns. Getting into the end zone made all the difference.
We had to settle for 3 field goals, yeah.
Yeah, the field goals didn't help you. And I mean, this was a game of 2 of the top 4 teams in your division, but Mexico City came out on top.
Yep. And our division is so tight, I believe, and we'll find out later for sure how the league has it broken down, but I think that puts us in last place in our division. The over-under for this from Jack's data was 52.5. We didn't even come close because Lone Star couldn't score. We only put up 33 points in this game. Lone Star was actually favored by 3.5. That didn't happen either. And you know what else didn't happen? SFL Nation, you didn't get on the board in the win column on the who you got. 108 to 74. You guys took Lone Star, so you start out 0-1 going into game 2, Benji, which is... Hold on. I got way too many buttons to push here. Hold on. Game 2 is Louisiana and Las Vegas. Louisiana now has won 2 out of 3. Does that mean Louisiana's back? Or are we still kind of in a whole pattern of wait and see thing?
Let's wait and see. Are they back? They're back. They're back. Wait, are they back? We'll see.
I don't know. 2 out of 3 is not bad.
No. This is it's really interesting. Too early to tell, perhaps, but I think if we learn anything this weekend, is that the SFL is crazy and all over the place anyway. So
yeah,
kudos to the Revolution for the win this weekend. I will say that they did face a Las Vegas Fury team that's kind of fallen upon some hard times after their blazing 2-0 start. We were all talking about Las Vegas and this defense, and they were looking really good. So Las Vegas now 4 losses in a row at home here to Louisiana. And I think Louisiana the Revolution just played like Revolution football. I mean, what are you looking across the stats here, watching the game? They're getting Reggie Streeter involved. Johnny Pickler is doing his thing from the quarterback spot. They put up some good yards. They played some good defense. But man, they got off to a fast start in this one. Right off the bat, nice long drive, 7-zip touchdown. Reggie Streeter touches the ball 8 times on the opening drive, 6 carries in a row at one point. So it's the Streeter show right off the bat. Poor Las Vegas runs 2 plays, throws an interception. So Revolution have a nice short field for Reggie again. Scores his second touchdown on the day already. So by this point, Louisiana has run 18 plays, and Reggie's touched the ball on 12 of those 18s. So I think you get an idea how the day is going to go for Louisiana. Defense holds Vegas to another punt, 3 and out, and then before you know it, Vegas is up. The Revolution's up 17-0 in the first half. I think at that point, they're down 14 before they ran their third offensive play of the game. Louisiana goes on another long drive, kicks a field goal. At this point, 17-zip. Reggie Streeter's touched the ball 15 times, and Las Vegas in total has only run 6 plays.
Wow.
So it was just a little bit too much to overcome with the slow start by Vegas, and they just couldn't make up any ground. The rest of the first half ends 20-3 in favor of Louisiana. Big Chase Earl touchdown out of the gate in the second half, kind of blows it open 27-3, and then they kind of trade in turnovers, 3 punts, 4 interceptions right there in the middle of that second half before Las Vegas kind of makes it close on a John Blades bomb, makes it 30-10 at the end, a little bit more respectable, but domination on the part of the Revolution. And I don't know if we can say that they faced a team in Las Vegas that is reeling and down and crushed them, or if kicked the team that's already down, so to speak, or if Louisiana just totally dominated and came out and just wasn't going to give Las Vegas any room to wiggle here. But I think that it's a great sign if the Revolution. They played well all across the board. Chase Earl, 150 yards on 6 receptions. Johnny did his thing. Did have 3 interceptions, but it didn't cost him in the. He was supported by that running game and Reggie Streeter, 33 overall touches, or 35 overall touches for Reggie for 160 total yards. So it was a Reggie Streeter game. He kind of paced them. 436 yards total offense by the Revolution. They did hold the Fury to 245 yards. So it was start to finish. This was Louisiana's game.
Yeah, Benji, you don't need to respond to this. It's kind of a rhetorical question, but a couple of shows ago, Jeremy Vega, I don't know if he was joking at the time, but talked about how I talk about Vegas having the best home field advantage in the SFL all the time, and he made some comment about mountains or something, which made us believe that it was Denver. But now I'm starting to believe that maybe Vegas doesn't have, after this season, the way things are going, they don't have the home field advantage we thought they had. Jack's data thought they were going to, because they were 3.5-point favorites in this game. They did not cover over under a 51.5, which is really close to that 10-point threshold we talk about, with 40 points being scored in the game. And look at SFL Nation, quick comeback, getting on the board, 99-85, so it's pretty close. Took Louisiana, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about on Thursday, as I believe Louisiana will be moving on to play Houston, and Houston's on fire right now. So Game 3 this past weekend, Charleston at Jacksonville, Bo. This was a game that almost everybody thought, I think, Jacksonville would win, but they thought it was going to be super close. Does the score do this game justice? Was it closer than this, or did Jacksonville, were they a double-digit win team in this game?
I think the score does it justice. I think we figured out some things about these two teams because, to be honest, I thought Jacksonville played a below their average game. If you look at their numbers, Christian Christensen went 31 for 45, 244 yards passing. He had 2 touchdowns, but he had 2 interceptions. Jared Willis could not get going this game. 25 carries for 37 yards. That's only an average of 1.5 yards a carry. Yeah. He couldn't get any. The longest he had was 6 yards. And I mean, he did a little bit out of through the air with 8 receptions for 40 yards, but they could not get much going. We did have an Iggy Swift sighting, so that's always good. Iggy with 3 receptions for 17 yards, and then he got involved in the rushing game with a couple of rushes there as well. So shout out to Iggy for that. But overall, I think Jacksonville offensively, their game was not up to their standards. And so I think we learned a little bit more about Jacksonville's defense from this game. Speaking briefly on Jacksonville's defense, their defense played like monsters. Succo Lamongo, let's talk about 3 interceptions in the game. Every time Charleston started to get something going, he would take them off the field. Keenan Samuels making another great case for Rookie of the Year. 8 tackles in a really solid game. And just looking at the entire linebacking core, Clay Jones and J Mart added another 13 tackles total. Wow. Their linebackers alone had 21 tackles in this game. So the Jacksonville was all over the place, and they didn't give Charleston any air. And speaking of no air, the passing game was non-existent when you look at Charleston. I guess it was existent. They had 210 yards passing, but only 1 passing.
No. Did we lose Bo? Anybody else here, Bo?
He may have re-entered the Matrix.
I think Bo Martin Jr. has re-entered the Matrix. Let's see. Oh, he's still in here. It shows him still in here. Bo, we can't hear you. Not sure what happened exactly. You're not muted. You're in the server. If you can hear us, you should jump out, jump back in. Looks like you're doing exactly that. As I'm looking at the stats here that I just went off of to try to see if he was back in here, the interesting thing I thought is, he said Jared Willis only rushed for 37 yards, but then when I looked at Swearigan, he only rushed for 56, and he didn't have a touchdown. Is that Bo back in? Nope.
No, that was Mike.
Okay. So I think and I don't know what Bo was going to say exactly, but I'm willing to say I'm not surprised Jacksonville won. Thought it would have been super close. Jacksonville, just slightly better, and maybe playing at home. And if the game switched and they're playing Charleston, maybe Charleston gets the edge. Jack's data thought Jacksonville had the edge. They were favored by 2.5 points, so they covered that. The over-under 41.5, really close with 36 points scored in this game, and a 2-game winning streak for us, SFL Nation, as we took Jacksonville 145-35. Moving into Game 4, Tyler, which, to be honest with you, I don't know what to think of Sioux Falls. All these other times we're like, oh, this is the week they're going to get a win. This is the week they're going to get a win. Then they play Florida, and we're like, oh, it's probably not going to be this week, and then they get it this week. So I don't know what to say about Sioux Falls. I'm hoping you do.
If it weren't for the first 15 seconds, I think you'd be right. For the first 15 seconds of the game, It was all Florida. One play, 76 yards for Stephen Bush to the house. My goodness. What a way to get the game started, right? But then from there, it was just all Sioux Falls. They contained Charlie Boletsky, they contained Ron Cochran, and that explosive offense for the most part. Stephen Bush did end up with 177 receiving yards, so he still had a fantastic day. But for the most part, everyone else was pretty well contained. And then their defense came alive. Jonathan Kampf, big man touchdown on the defensive side of the football. So it was really just a fantastic football game by Sioux Falls. We got to see a little bit of what they're capable of. We know that they're capable of, and it was just fantastic to see.
Julian Tyree, we've been kind of hard on him this season. He seemed to be the Ron Cochran of this game, right? He was the manager. He didn't do a lot, 193 yards and a touchdown, but he played clean, no interceptions, and he managed the game well. Whereas Ron threw for almost 400 yards, but he had 2 picks. So if Julian, do you give credit to Julian Tyree for managing this game properly for the win?
Definitely. I think they did have one turnover themselves for Sioux Falls. I can't remember what it was, but for Florida, those interceptions by Cochran came at 2 costly times. One at the end of the second half, which led to a Sioux Falls touchdown right before the end of the half, and then one to seal the game at the end of the game. So it was really, Dave, just a superb game management exhibition by Julian Tyree throughout.
Is this where we see Sioux Falls turn things around? I heard Cam and Mike St. Green in their post game talk about the worst that Sioux Falls, I guess, has ever done is 6-6, something along those lines. Are they going to be able to win 5 of their next 6 to break even at 6-6? You think?
We'll have to see. They have a pretty favorable second half to their schedule, but they have everything to do to end out the season. They have to win out, in my opinion, to get in the playoffs, and it's going to be a long uphill battle for this Sparrows team.
Is this just a blip on the radar for Florida?
I think so, but at the same time, they're used to playing defensive game style, really tight and close. But for the most part, Sioux Falls came and did that to them. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond.
Boletsky, only 58 yards, Doyle 26. Neither of them get in the end zone. And we've talked about how they have this 2-man running attack that's helped them in a lot of games. Didn't seem to help them this weekend.
No, he was contained. Florida was entirely contained ever since the first 15 seconds of that game. It was all Sioux Falls.
Bullet Boletsky put in the chat, we outgained Sioux Falls by almost 200 yards for what it's worth. Had 2 terribly costly turnovers that changed the game. Yeah, we agree with that. Real quick, before I get to Jack's data for the Florida game, a couple comments in the chat. Yes, Cam, I agree. We should all be able to meet each other, all these panelists and everybody else. And yes, I will be more than happy to do an Access Live show at the convention if we actually have a convention. And just to confirm what Nate Hall said, yes, Pink Lisa and I will be hitting the roads, driving our booties to Ohio at the end of March to go hang out with the Halls for an entire weekend. So if there's no Access Live that following Tuesday, you know why. It means Kendra got us probably too drunk and we're too hungover. So there you go. All right, moving on to, Jack's data. Florida Sioux Falls. Florida was favored by 6. Obviously, they did not cover. Over under 48.5, which is within that 10-point threshold with 40 points scored in the game. And we drop another one, SFL Nation, going to 2-2 because we took Florida 150-37 in the Who You Got. Moving on to Game 5 on Saturday. All right, Mike, I'm on record. This is one of like 3 or 4 crows I have to eat today. I didn't guarantee it, but I was pretty positive. I was pretty confident that this would be DC's final win, or finally get a win. They were so close so many times. They were playing at home, and they were playing at a Tulsa team, I think, that had won 2 in a row. But, perfect time for Tulsa to maybe feel a little overconfident and drop a game. I don't know if I would call it a trap game or not. And it didn't seem to go that way at all. What happened?
It wasn't for lack of trying. DC the last couple of weeks with the St. Louis game and now this game have looked really impressive, especially on defense. But Tulsa had them countered. I mean, they did what they needed to do to win. DC was out there and they fought hard. They fought valiantly. I know there's been a lot of people that have put DC down this season, and looks like they're gonna have to start eating their words because they're really stepping it up, and they're gonna get on that win column real soon. And it was a real fun game to watch.
Yeah. So tell me about the play of Shabazz.
Shabazz did really well, and he impressed me. I hadn't seen him play before. I came after he left the first time, but now that he's back, he really impressed me. He did really well out there. He got his team in positions they needed to be. They just, for whatever reason, couldn't finish it off. He did throw 2 interceptions, but he had a 72.41 completion percentage, and it was a really good game for him. There was one point in particular where he really impressed me with avoiding sacks that really sold me on him, and I'm a Shabazz fan now.
Obviously, though, JQ outplayed him. He only threw for 165 yards. But again, JQ's a rookie, threw 2 touchdowns, kept it clean, no interceptions. I mean, we talked about it before when JQ and a lot of other quarterbacks in this league, they throw more interceptions than touchdowns, they lose the game. JQ seemed to be just like perfectly, and I don't want to say he managed the game because I think he did more than just manage the game, but he just kind of looked like he was in a really good rhythm finally.
Yeah, and he did a lot of really good things, and I just want to give him a quick shout out. He's a former Lincoln Rattlesnake, same as I, and I enjoyed my time with him. I'm glad to see him out here being successful. But he put up 165 yards, threw 2 touchdowns and no picks. He did get sacked twice, but that was no fault of his. But his guys got it done. And when you got a guy on your team like Gabriel Manning, I don't see how you can't be successful.
Kudos to the Dragons, to DC, for keeping Sanzo down to only 43 yards rushing. I mean, that's huge, right? You think if Sanzo only rushes for 43 yards, Tulsa's probably going to lose. Whereas on the other flip side, Kevin Say runs for 110 yards. You think that would be beneficial for DC? So kind of backwards, Mike. It seems you would think one way DC got all the rushing yards that would benefit them, and without Sanzo playing well, Tulsa wouldn't be able to win, but that wasn't a factor at all.
Yeah, and like I said, DC's defense was out there to play, and they did everything they could. There was one point where they even knocked the ball out of Kevin Say's, sorry, they shut down Constanzo, but in the second half, he figured out a way to start getting running. So that 43 yards was mostly in the second half. He wasn't getting it going. On the flip side, Tulsa's defense did pretty good, even though it looks like they gave up a lot to Kevin Say. They did hit him pretty hard and knock the ball out, getting a good field position with that, but only turned it into 3 points. But yeah, DC's defense is really, really impressive.
So Jack's data, actually, before I get to Jack's data, there's a few things in the chat I want to say. Cam said, I want to know what the Halls did that was so special to get Dave and Lisa to go all the way up there. It's kind of a private, secret, personal thing, Cam, but I'm going to tell you right now, just between you and me, here's what they did. They invited us. Wait, what? What? That's crazy. I know, it's crazy talk. Also, yes, Nacho, I agree. I was confident as well. And Gunny, of course, I didn't know you were going to be near me because no sniper Gunny in the Marine Corps should ever be seen or heard from that far away. So, but now that you told me, I'll be looking out for you in May. And Deion Hawkins, I'll have to go back and look. I think there was at least one game, maybe 2, that you were predicted to win, but I'll have to go back and look. Jack's data, here's the deal. Jack's data had Tulsa favored by 3. Tulsa covered. Over under a 45.5. They didn't come close, 33 points. But to Deion Hawkins' point here, even SFL Nation took DC 121 to only 66 to beat Tulsa. and 121 people were wrong. So there you go. All right, the nightcap on Saturday. San Diego at Fort Worth. Benji. I'm hoping we get Bo back before after Benji. We'll go to Gunny, and then hopefully Bo will be back. I wonder if he's probably sitting in the green room waiting on me to bring.
Yeah, he's
him in.
waiting on you.
He's probably waiting on me.
He's enjoying the buffet though, so
yeah, that's okay. Oh, that's right. He's got a new OBS, so I'm gonna have to try to put him back in during Gunny. In the meantime, Benji, here's the game 2. I think 2 of like 3 or 4. I have to eat some crow. Fort Worth was favored by 17.5. I was corrected by Nacho's like, why the loud sigh, sir? You know why, Nacho. I didn't think Fort Worth would cover 17.5. They barely covered 17.5. A couple games they barely even scored 17 points. Hunter sent me a couple games where they scored in the 30s, so he corrected me after the show on Thursday, which like only Hunter can do, of course. And so I don't know. I have to do the math. Let me get my phone out. I have a calculator on that. Let me do the math and see if Fort Worth actually covered by 17 or not. But Benji, I think there's a pretty good chance they did.
Barely. They squeaked it.
Yeah, don't talk trash, Nacho. You barely squeaked it out, bro.
Yeah. Fort Worth. So, shall we start talking about how they're a pretty good team?
You can start there if you want. I'm gonna let you talk for 3 minutes while I try to get Bo back in here.
They are now finding themselves at the top of the standings. So after a very interesting weekend in the SFL, Fort Worth Toros are now at the top of the charts. So they're spinning the jams, so to speak. Yeah, they had a fantastic game here against San Diego. I don't even really know where to begin here. You're looking at the stats, and it's just like Fort Worth just absolutely had their way with San Diego. If you look at the way things went down, Fort Worth was just able to get whatever they wanted to on offense, but big plays were the special of the day for Fort Worth. Thrilliums had a 70-yard rush in here. I mean, the Cowboy, I should start with that. The Cowboy led off all scoring here. Fort Worth has a fantastic drive to open the game. Nice pitch and catch to the Cowboy who scores. And then, San Diego, 4 possessions in the first half. They managed 3 punts and a field goal. Meanwhile, Fort Worth is putting points on the board. Huge run by Thrilliums, 70-yard rush for a huge score, puts them up 14-zip. I think that after San Diego's third possession, they ran 23 plays, only 64 total yards at that point. Give it right back to Fort Worth. It takes them just 4 plays, and they find Stephen Hacker in the end zone for 66 yards. So another big play. San Diego manages a field goal, and Fort Worth, as if everything's not going their way already, to close out the first half, of course, they throw a Hail Mary, and Cade Stevens comes down with it in the end zone. And if you're watching that live, that was quite the
Cade Stevens, yeah,
quite the way to end that first half. And that ball bounced around. I think everyone touched at the end zone, and then Cade Stevens came down with it for that unexpected score at the end of the half, 28-3. Fort Worth's 3 final drives of the first half, they scored 21 points on just 10 plays. So drives of 4 plays, 2 plays. So, they're just
sounds like a lot of foreplay in this game, Benji.
Cutting through San Diego and getting whatever they needed to there. And then the story, scoring doesn't happen so much in the second half. I have 2 Fort Worth touchdowns, and again, they're big plays. A nice 15-yard toss to Hacker, and then another Cade Stevens touchdown. The man caught 3 balls on Saturday, and 2 of them were for scores. So Cade Stevens had 3 receptions, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. His partner in crime, Stephen Hacker, 5 catches for 148 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. Of course, Jason Williams, he had 19 carries, 170 yards. So just these massive totals here. Lauren Prococo, Coco's better half, had 4 receptions, 38 yards. And then Cameron Curtis really was, directed the show here. He had an outstanding game. His playmakers all across the field making plays. 22 of 27 for Cameron Curtis, 358 yards, 5 touchdowns on the day, only 1 interception. So, that's the story. Fort Worth just played really well, continued to play great defense, limited San Diego, didn't let him get on track at all. And Fort Worth are continuing to play really great defense, shutting people out of the end zone when San Diego manages a field goal. So that's just tremendous. Anytime you can hold a team to just a field goal. And I think by far and away, if we check out the standings already, the number 1 scoring defense in the league, the Toros have. So when you have that on the defensive side of the ball, we're not letting anyone score, and you've got playmakers on the offensive side, things are going really well for you here. It was just too much Fort Worth from the very beginning for poor San Diego in this game. And they just did no big plays for San Diego. I think the largest play from scrimmage for them in this game was 17 yards. Unfortunately, when cross the ball, Fort Worth is just doing whatever they want to. Unfortunately, with these big plays, Jalen Wells, 22 carries for 62 yards, so still having some difficulties getting on track. His longest run was 14 yards, so he's averaging just over 2 yards a carry in this game if you toss out that 14-yard run. And so the good news here for San Diego is they found Optimus Klein. He was their leading pass catcher. He reeled in 10 catches for 78 yards. Before that, only 8 catches on the entire season. So Optimus came to life. Receivers were held in check. I think the story here is, poor San Diego. They just ran into a buzzsaw, and it's Fort Worth was just awesome. And now they're sitting at the top of the league. Not much else to say about it, I think.
Dude, that Tex-Mex division is no joke. I think 2 teams are 3-3, and one team's 4-2, and one team's 5-1. It's going to be crazy. A couple more things in here. Speaking of Hacker, I just want to say Hacker had a weekend. He had a good game, obviously, with Fort Worth, but he also had an amazing game in the Simulation Soccer Federation real quick. 2 goals in the last 5 minutes of the game to send the game into PKs. So Hacker had a hell of a weekend. So there you go. I'm going to move on to Gunny if he's around. Gunny, are you with me? Hey, Gunny,
sir,
are you with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, give me a second.
Yes, sir.
I got to push a bunch of buttons here. So give me 1 sec. I got to find your Gunny thing here. Boom, there's Gunny for now. That's going to change hopefully by Thursday. Look at Ray on the ball from the halls of Montezuma. I got to change the sound real quick too, Gunny, so we don't blow everybody out of the water. That would be probably pretty bad. And then now I will say, whenever you are ready, you may proceed, sir.
Good evening, SFL. Great games of Week 6. Congratulations to all the winners. Fox Highwind, special shout out to you for zipping by me for a long touchdown pass. It made me look like crap. Thank you so much. Home field wins and losses for season 16, halfway through the season. Home team wins 38. Away wins 34. So 38-34 is pretty close, home and away. The divisions, how they suit up. The best division is the South Division with a record of 15-9, led by Fort Worth with a 5-1 record. The East and the Atlantic also 14-10 records. St. Louis at 5-1, and Jacksonville and Florida tied at 4-2. Out of these 3 divisions, no team is below 500. It will be competitive playoff race. I'm looking forward to Cam's playoff scenario this evening. Congratulations. We have no more undefeated teams. Sioux Falls, congratulations on your first win of the season against Florida. Houston with a good upset against Denver at Denver. And London, an upset at St. Louis. Congratulations again to all the winners, and good luck for the second half of the season. Dave, back to you. That is all.
Thank you, Gunny. Appreciate all that info. Ray, appreciate you putting the lyrics to the Marines hymn in there. And the thing that I really want to know, and I think everybody is wondering, is how did Bo Martin Jr. completely change locations? Bo, are you even in the same universe? I believe somebody is using the term Matrix and Morpheus in the chat right now.
Can you hear me now?
Oh my gosh, yes I can. Holy smokes. Louder,
All right.
probably louder than I want to be honest with you. But
All right. So let me move my mic. I am in my studio, my actual voiceover studio. So I apologize. I did change locations. My laptop where I was, apparently I forgot to plug the battery in, so it went dead. So apologies there.
no worries at
So
all. So the mere fact that I think you should always do this show from your studio because you sound 100% better, bro.
Thanks.
Mike All's giving you the thumbs up and all that. So, all right, let me get back to these games because I think you're up next. You got back just in time, bro.
Good deal.
Let me put these back on. Boom. There you go. Look at this. Ain't so hard, Winkler. Did I do the? I think I forgot the Jack's date on the San Diego game real quick. San Diego Fort Worth. I think I said I may have mentioned the 17.5 point favorite thing. I don't know if I brought that up or not, but I'm pretty sure Fort Worth cleared. Check this out. Jack's data though. Over under a 44.5. 45 points scored in the game. Can't get much closer than that. And SFL Nation, we end on a win, 152-32. We took Fort Worth to end 3-3. On Saturday. So now we are moving into Sunday's games. The first game, Bo, I said this had the potential to be the game of the week. You tell everybody, was it the game of the week?
This was most definitely the game of the week, in my opinion. And it did not disappoint from beginning to the end. Like, the game had everything you looked for. It had drama. It had overtime. It was tense at moments. But now breaking the game down, Dave, I was looking at the stats, and I had to double check the stats because just about every stat I looked at, Vancouver won this game. And so I looked at the total yards, 468 to 403 in favor of Vancouver. I looked at the pass yards, 448 to 323 in favor of Vancouver. Rush yards, Baltimore had the edge, but and then there were 3 pass touchdowns by Vancouver and 3 rush touchdowns by Baltimore. Time of possession was ruled by Vancouver, almost 25 minutes to just over 20 minutes. So I was looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, well, gosh, Vancouver played a really great game. What caused Vancouver to suffer their 3rd loss in a row? After going 3-0, they've suffered their 3rd loss in a row. And I looked at the numbers and I looked, and one thing stuck out to me. And forgive me, Tom Pepper. Tom Pepper stuck out to me. He was 42 for 53. Now, so I can't place all of the blame on Tom Pepper because anytime you ask a quarterback to throw the ball that much, you're asking for trouble. Tom Pepper, when it came to the trouble department, he did not disappoint. 3 interceptions. Okay. Baltimore, everybody knows Baltimore is the champions. They bring the pressure. Everybody knows they're going to bring the pressure. They got to Tom Pepper 3 times. And I don't know, they sacked him 3 times, and I don't know why. Maybe that was the reason why he threw 3 interceptions. But Giovanni Bolt was just a killer for them. Every time Vancouver started to get a drive going, Giovanni Bolt would just like, no, we're going to go ahead and just kill this drive. He had 2 interceptions, none bigger than the one right before overtime to make sure, even though he probably should have downed it, we get that he didn't down it. Giovanni's a scorer. He was trying to go for the end zone. If he'd have went for the end zone, he'd have won the game for them, but he didn't. And at the end of the day, Baltimore still came away with the victory. But Robert Redford couldn't get anything going for Vancouver. 14 rushes for 20 yards. That's barely over a yard per carry. Now, he did light him up in the passing game, so I want to give him some credit. 13 receptions for 113 yards. But when it comes to your running back, you expect more than 14 rushes for 20 yards. And on the flip side, all Jack Wigmore had to do was not screw it up. So Jack Wigmore played game manager. He was 35. They asked him to throw the ball a lot. I was kind of surprised with T. Roy Gaines back there doing T. Roy things. But Jack Wigmore actually threw the ball 50 times. But T. Roy still came out with a decent day. He had all 3 scores for Baltimore, 16 rushes for 80 yards for a respectable 5 yards a carry. So all Jack Wigmore had to do is not play as bad as Tom Pepper. And he was able to successfully do that. Baltimore is looking like the season 15 champions that they are. And they're one of the top teams. In my opinion, they're the team to beat this year.
Well, I agree with everything you said, Bo Martin Jr. Here's the thing, though. Peppers, he threw the ball a lot, and he threw 3 picks, but he also threw 3 touchdowns, where Wigmore only threw an interception and no touchdowns, right? So I got to tell you, Giovanni Bolt, he was the diva of the week for the championship game last season. And I can't remember if I said it then or in another time, but I kind of feel like he's the Deion Sanders of the SFL. That guy is exciting to watch. He does it on defense. He does it on special teams. He's just a beast and one of the best players in the SFL. The Jack's data had the over-under at 54.5 with 57 points scored in this game. That was really good. This was a pick'em, and obviously the score shows that it was close enough to be a pick'em. We start Sunday off SFL Nation with a victory, 126-59. We took Baltimore. 126-59. We took Baltimore. So moving on to game 2 on Sunday. I took Arizona in the survivor pool, and to be honest with you, Tyler, they scared the hell out of me. I was very nervous, especially since I had already lost. Actually, you know what's ironic? I talked all this about Fort Worth not covering, but I took them in all 3 of my picks for the survivor pool. I took Fort Worth in LA, I took Fort Worth in Florida, and then I took Fort Worth in Arizona. Luckily, AJ and Eddie Gage and them bailed me out. But this was a lot closer game, I think, than people expected, or no?
Well, definitely a lot closer than people expected. But Dave, I got to ask, when was the last time you saw a quarterback throw 7 interceptions and still win the game?
It's been a while. I know we've seen 6. I don't remember when I've seen 7, to be honest with you.
So
maybe
it definitely
win or lose, I don't know when I've seen 7.
Right. And it definitely shows the resilience, not just with Ashley Jackson, but the entirety of that Arizona franchise just coming together and playing as one. We really saw that today. I know Ashley's heart was heavy along with the rest of her teammates after the loss of her father this past week. So our thoughts and prayers are with the Jackson household, and just, make sure, just like she always tells us, make sure you're taking care of each other, make sure you're taking care of yourself. And it was good for Arizona to grab the win this past weekend. But another thing, 4 touchdowns too, not just, wasn't just the 7 interceptions. She played a good game besides throwing those picks. 4 touchdowns got everybody involved. Both the Hands brothers got involved quite thoroughly. Both close to 200 or over 200 yards receiving. She was lighting it up.
Vernard Smith, the rookie, with 2 picks. I thought Iverson Gamble had one, but maybe not. No, I guess it was just those. I feel like there were 3. Oh, Eddie Gage had one.
Eddie Gage, both safeties.
Wait, I'm sorry, who?
The rookie.
Who? Who's that guy? Does he even play defense?
The Hall of Famer.
Oh.
The Hall of Famer there.
I didn't know Eddie played defense. He talked about offense so much, I didn't even realize he played defense.
But the rookie outshined Eddie Gage. He picked up 2, only Eddie had 1. So that just shows the secondary quality that Arizona's cultivating, especially with the phenomenal player in Vernard Smith, my former teammate over at Memphis.
I mean, let's give a little props to Matt South. We've been hard on him on this show. 316 yards and 2 touchdowns. Unfortunately, 3 interceptions. But, like you said, very rare you throw 7 interceptions or 6 interceptions in a game and win. I think Matt South probably thought he did enough to win this game. What was the difference, Tyler? What put Arizona over the top?
Stymie defense in the most important times. Not to mention the fourth quarter with the fourth quarter safety as well.
Right.
So it looks kind of kittywampus as far as the scoreline goes. You have less turnovers than the other team, but it just was the fact of the matter that Arizona played when they had to at the right time. So that was the difference.
Well, she threw for over 500 yards. I mean, just the whole game. That whole game. Number 1 was insane. Number 2, definitely on the edge of your seat. Especially if you had them in the survivor pool. Jack's data had Arizona favored by 7.5, so they almost covered, but not quite. And the over-under 51.5, they blew that out of the water with 66 points. And look at us, SFL Nation, 2 in a row on Sunday. What do you know? Out the gate, 152-37. We took Arizona going to the 3rd game, which was another interesting game. Yep.
I gotta say something quick to Cam. It's the Minnesota translation. It's the North translation of cattywampus to kittywampus.
You know that kittywampus, bro. Come on. Let me see, Marco Swift. I haven't had many interceptions this season, been more of a tackle. Yeah, but you know what? You and Law are playing great in Houston, and we're going to talk about that later. All right, so here's the first of the down goes Frazier. No more undefeated teams, Mike. I think most people thought St. Louis was going to win this. London coming off a loss to Lone Star the week before. St. Louis undefeated, one of only 2 undefeated teams going into the game, and home field advantage, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and all apologies to Bo. To me personally, this was the game of the week. And I had a lot of fun writing my recap, so I'm going to go ahead and read all that off for you, Dave.
Go ahead.
I will say this game was a barn burner, and maybe fellow regular panelist Eagle Mondavi should change his name to Barn Owl Mondavi, as he ended up getting burned on the wrong side of this one.
Ooh, hey-o.
Heyo.
Hey-o.
It started out pretty exciting. Each team trading off interceptions in the first 30 seconds of the contest. However, it really slowed to a crawl after that, though, with several punts back and forth from each team. That is until well into the second quarter, when London managed a long field goal to break the stalemate. St. Louis countered with one of their own on the next possession, thanks to a beautiful catch and run by Guy Clausen to set up Amy the Leg Shalizzi's field goal. Bolstered by the score, St. Louis's defense was hyped up and managed to pick off Angus again, setting up the offense to strike with a Brown to Dillavow touchdown. Then things got quiet again until London used their 2-minute offense and managed to drive down the field in 4 plays and score a touchdown of their own on a strike from McLean to Storm. Then when I thought we would head into the half with a tie ball game, Barry Barkley decided he didn't like that idea and plucked the ball out of the air and ran it back to the house to give London a lead to head into the locker room with. Coming out in the second half, London's defense shut down St. Louis on offense. Robert Merrill seemed to have figured things out finally and broke off a couple big runs to set up a pass in the flat to Merrill, which he was able to just trot into the end zone for the score. On the next drive, St. Louis managed to find a way to drive it downfield, thanks to a weird tipped-around ball intended for Eagle, which bounced off of 2 defenders before finding its way back into his hands, and some nice running by Cairo Martinez, ending in another nice touchdown pass. Closing the gap back to 7, I really wondered what the Gladiators would do to try and extend this historic start to their team that they were off to. However, the Knights had other plans as they took their next drive all the way down, and Robert Merrill punched it in to reestablish the Knights' 2-score lead. St. Louis came back, but only managed to add a field goal to the board. Nicholas Warner managed to snag an interception on London's next drive, giving the offense great field position by already being in field goal range, and a field goal is exactly all they managed, closing the gap to 8 points. On the Knights' next drive, they were driving down the field quite well until Merrill coughed up the ball and the Gladiators recovered. The Gladiators drove it all the way to London's 37-yard line before turning it over on downs and giving London the win, basically. The player of the game was Robert Merrill, who finally got the running game going for London in the win.
Mike, here's what Jack's data had to say about this game. This is one of the games they weren't close on the over-under. Well, actually, they were kind of close. It's 10, about 10.5 points. They had over-under 44.5. They scored 54 on this, and I think I kind of saw that coming. Two good offenses, 2 decent defenses. Here's the thing, though. The spread had St. Louis favored by 6.5, so they almost nailed that part of it. But SFL Nation, and I don't know what it is. I don't know why we seem to go for almost all the favorites all the time. We took St. Louis 143 to only 40, over 100 more votes for St. Louis than London, and we drop another game, SFL Nation, to go 1-2 halfway through Sunday, moving on to Game 4, LA and Queen City. We talked about it, Benji, on Thursday. If this could be a trap game, I believe it was Eagle that had this game, and he said every time you go to Queen City, it could be a trap game, and it's exactly what it turned out to be.
Yeah, it's great to see Queen City on the board here. I think they're, year in, year out, they're a quality team. It's Queen City, right? So
Right.
if you are set to play Queen City, you're traveling to Queen City, you just can't better now. You don't take you got to take it seriously. And as we're looking at it, it indeed was a trap game. Queen City does get the victory here, 24-17. And just looking at the stats, the team's results, it actually appears to be a little bit even. Los Angeles Lycans, LA does outgain Queen City, but I think they have to play catch up a little bit. The first half starts slow. Both teams feeling each other out. 5 punts early on, or 6 punts, an interception, a field goal before Queen City gets on the board with a touchdown. They had a second one and a nice play to Chris Curtis, who had an outstanding game for Queen City to take a 14-3 halftime lead. So kind of like two heavyweight fighters kind of feeling each other out in that first half. Los Angeles, you kind of just maybe got the sense that they'd turn it on. They would start putting things together. Yeah, they were down 14-3, but we'll see what happens when you come out at halftime. And sure enough, they put an outstanding drive together, drive the length of the field in 11 plays. Robert Johnson dives in for a 1-yard touchdown. That makes it 10-14. So Queen City's up by 4. And I wondered if you started to feel like the momentum was going to be changing there at that point in the game. Los Angeles has been playing well all season long, and they're a great team. And so you just kind of thought that they'd maybe we're going to turn the corner here. And Queen City puts together an outstanding drive to answer. 12 plays, 76 yards. They have a 3rd and long at the end of this drive, and a huge conversion to the tight end, James Matthews Jr., sets him up right on the goal line for a 1-yard jet zero dive into the end zone. And just like that, Queen City puts that lead back to 21-10, feeling a little bit comfortable. Los Angeles, these first 3 drives in the second half are 3 long drives with both of these teams. So LA counters with their own 15-play drive, 72 yards. Robert Johnson goes in. And it's at that moment, if you're watching the game, you think that they're going to do this. LA is going to pull this off perhaps. But Queen City, they just find a way to get it done at the end of this. They manage another field goal. LA has a 4 turnover on downs. They do throw an interception. Queen City's kind of able to kill the clock a little bit after that. And so they survive at home against an excellent LA team, and Queen City performed really well. I think AJ Caswell, 250 yards, 1 touchdown, only 1 interception. Jet zero, still limited a little bit so far this season, only had 50 yards on the ground, but did have 2 touchdowns, 1 running, 1 through the air. And Chris Curtis, of course, had a big game, 9 receptions, 150 yards. So Queen City did enough on offense to keep ahead of LA, and then defense kind of really forced LA to do some things they didn't like to do. 5 sacks by Queen City on the day, 2 interceptions. Albert Begin had 1, Pharaoh Reigns had 1. 10 tackles by Albert Begin in addition to his interception. So I think Queen City just played strongly in enough facets, offensively and defensively, to kind of keep LA off balance. And LA just couldn't make it over the top in this one. Queen City wins.
Yeah, I think if someone told me Robert Johnson was going to rush for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Jet Zero was only going to rush for 40-something yards and a touchdown, I'd be hard-pressed to think that Queen City was going to win this game. But I got to tell you, Benji, as I go to Jack's data here, for me, the difference was the old salty veteran, A.J. Caswell, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns and interceptions, managed the game perfectly against a hot team coming into town that's been putting up a lot of points. So I think that, for me personally, that was the difference of the game. Jack's data had this over-under at 51.5 with 41. They're really close to that 10-point threshold. The LA Lycans were favored by 10.5 in this game, so Queen City knocked that out of the park. And then SFL Nation going with the favorite again, 144-35. And it's not just that we go with this favorite all the time; it's that we overwhelmingly go with the favorite. So we're high risk, high reward type of group. It seems like 144-35. We took LA. We dropped to 2-2 on Sunday, and 5-5 for the whole weekend going into the last 2 games, which brings me, Bo, to Atlanta at Carolina. My old stomping grounds, Atlanta. My old boss, Mark, was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still here or not. I just kind of felt, Bo, that, and Carolina's played well. I mean, they beat us. They've been playing well. I just kind of felt like this was going to be Atlanta's game, and it did turn out to be that way.
Yeah, Atlanta finally getting back to doing Atlanta things. But shout out to Tyler on that 2-10 prediction. So I just wanted to give a good tip of the hat for
Hey,
You know,
so let me just say, if they go 3-9, is 2-10 really a bad prediction? I'm just saying. Not that Atlanta will, but you know what I'm saying.
Tyler gets up and walks
Tyler's
away.
like, I'm out.
I wanted to know if maybe
Unforgettable.
Tyler wanted to revisit his prediction.
There you go.
Maybe he wanted to try again or maybe he was thinking about what San Diego was going to do this year. Maybe that's where he got his 2-10 prediction from. Maybe he crossed his notes up. But anyway, yeah, Atlanta absolutely came to play. They really did. Bryant Dynasty did a really good job at managing the game. 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. BDG Hollywood, I was so happy to see him get back to doing BDG Hollywood type things.
Yeah.
16 carries for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. BDG averaged 9.3 yards per carry. I can't stress how important that is to have a running back to average almost a first down every time they touch the ball. That literally is a game changer. So BDG with a 56-yard long. He even added in a few yards on the receiving end as well. I was really happy to see Atlanta get back to their regular way of doing things, and I hope to see more of that from them. On the flip side, you had Carolina. Not a bad day from Logan Jack, 25 rushes for 70 yards. That's an okay day, but when you got BDG on the other side doing monstrous things like he does, it just kind of it overshadowed that. But what really stood out to me is, you always talk about more touchdowns than interceptions. Xander Gold with 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions.
Yep.
And that right there pretty much tells the story of the game, because Moose Papineau had 6 tackles, but he also had 2 out of those 3 interceptions. So Atlanta was feasting on those ill-fated passes. You had a lot of the other guys. Aquana Shine added 10 tackles to his. But then there was some bright sides for Carolina. I don't want to say that there wasn't, but it just wasn't enough to overcome everything that was going on with Xander Gold. You had Harish Prasad had a really good day, 7 receptions for 122 yards, which under normal circumstances, any circumstances, that's a good day. But and then Sam Avolas had another 6 catches for 65 yards. But it just wasn't enough to overcome the turnovers. And I think that's the story of the game for Carolina. If they can take a little bit better care of the ball, they'd be better off. And excuse me, they also needed a little bit more help from their defense in order to help get them some turnovers, because they didn't have the turnovers necessary that they needed to try to get back at the game. And that just allowed Atlanta to pretty much do whatever they wanted to.
I love when BDG plays well for Atlanta.
It's a beautiful thing.
Obviously, I love Atlanta anyway because I used to play there. But, he's like the king of the spin cycle. And I know that he gets a lot of his spin cycle and extra yards and big plays on screen passes. But I think it's so much more entertaining. And when you're, as a viewer, as somebody watching the game, when he actually gets the ball on a run and does the same thing. And I'm glad to see that Atlanta using him that way again after a few tough weeks. So
yeah, he's fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. Jack's data on this game, over under a 50.5 with 48 points scored. That's really close. Had Carolina favored by 3.5 in this game. That wasn't close. And look at us, SFL Nation. We finally get above 500 this weekend. But check this out. The closest who you got of the weekend, and maybe of one I've ever seen, 93-91. Only 2 votes difference taking Atlanta. So we're like 3 votes away from being under 500 going into the last game of the weekend, which before I turn this over to Tyler, I got to play it. See, this is where Wink would come in really handy. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Here we go. Ready?
I think Joe is hurt. Angie Dundee, Ali's trainer, right next to me, is saying it. You may hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Vega. Down goes Jeremy Vega and the Denver Nightwings. Let me just be the first to say, I did not see this coming. I did not predict it. I am completely shocked that Denver, Tyler, got completely rocked and worked in what Jeremy claimed just recently, the best home field advantage in the SFL.
5 interceptions from Josh Miller. That's uncharacteristic, unannounced. Houston's defense showed up. Houston's defense helped win that football game. Put Houston and E.T. King and company in fantastic field position all game long. I gotta say, it was a very, very good game from Houston. They limited their turnovers. They still had some three turnovers themselves, but it was the defense that took care of business Sunday night.
Tell me about those 2 rookie corners that are in the Access Live chat as we speak. They're always in here. 2 great guys. Tell me about these 2 rookie corners in Marco Swift and the long arm of the law.
Well, Marco Swift just keeps on batting the ball here, there, and everywhere if he's not picking them off. Had a couple of fantastic and timely deflections. Then Ragnar Law lays down the law twice, picking off the ball. These rookie corners have really showed up. Again, we all know Houston's little history over this past offseason, and now after all the rookies came in, after all the free agents came in to cover, they've really starting to come into their own and starting to make a huge impact within that Houston locker room, not just in the locker room, but on the field as well.
The 5 picks, first of all, by that defensive backfield, 2 by Law, 2 by Ethan Kai, 1 by A.J. Barnes. You can't say enough about their defense, Tyler, and I forgot to start the 3-minute timer for you, so we're just going to wing it.
Here's the 2 and 10 curse, Dave.
Is that what it is? I think I forgot it. I think I forgot it on your second one too. Here's what's funny about this, right? Or not funny. I'm sorry. I don't know what the word is. Not ironic, but interesting. Let's just use the word interesting. When I can't think of another word, Tyler, I just use the word interesting. Houston. We all know the interesting week that Houston had this week with the shows on Wednesday and Thursday. A lot. It's from what I've heard. The locker room, the team has really come together over the last few days, and I think it showed this weekend. Do you think part of this win, and not to take anything away from it, because obviously Houston's very talented, they beat us as well, that taking that emotion and that let's prove the world wrong kind of attitude into Denver this weekend kind of carried the momentum for them?
I think it did a little bit. A lot of people, that on either side of the fence might say when a new offensive coordinator comes in, how much are they going to change? And between every week, you don't aren't able to change a whole lot. So a lot of the stuff was there before that new offensive coordinator came in. And so that just shows you the quality of Houston's team and what they're able to put together there.
It's interesting. Usually if McChesney gets 100 and something yards and he sees the end zone at least once, Denver kind of cruises, right? But not this week. I think the 5 interceptions by Josh Miller, he was probably not really a factor. On the other side, E.T. King, 2 and 2, right? So like we talked about, he didn't throw more interceptions than touchdowns. And let's be honest, it was 31-23, 5 minutes left in the game. Houston's punting the ball back to Denver, giving Denver 5 minutes on the clock with a chance to tie the game. And what happens? I don't know the player's name off the top of my head. Just crushes the punt returner, causes a fumble. They pick it up, and then I think it's the very next play. It was like a 16-yard touchdown run by Warren Murray. Boom, ball game.
Yeah, everyone came to play. Everyone came to play, special teams included. That's the most overlooked aspect of a football game, I feel, is the special teams. But when you have a good quality hands team or punt defense team, you're able to impact games, and that's what we saw on Sunday.
Yeah. Last couple notes real quick. Warren Murray only had 75 yards, but he did see the end zone twice. And I believe D.R. Sim, 13 catches for 150 yards, but he didn't see the end zone, but he still had a great game. Houston knocks Denver down. Down goes Frazier. Due to this, and then the St. Louis game, we now have no undefeated teams left in the SFL, people. Jack's data on this game, They missed the over-under by about 10. It was 51.5. They scored 61 points. Denver was favored by 10.5, so that was, crazy the other way. And we, SFL Nation, of course you're going to take Denver 160 at only 25 in this game and end up Sunday 3-3, just like you did on Saturday, and 6-6 for the entire weekend. All right, let's move on to our Divas of the Week. Our Diva of the Week nominees. Give me a second here to get all this stuff going. So much easier when I don't have to do this. We're going to use that one for today. Eagle is, I don't think Eagle's around yet. Eagle had to work late. He wasn't sure if he was going to have a Diva of the Week or not. We'll check in with him and see if he does. And we know Wink is kind of on vacation right now. So as of right now, we will only have 1, 2, 3. We'll have 6, potentially 7 if Eagle comes back. So Mike All, starting with you, tell us who is your Season 16 Week 6 Diva of the Week nominee?
So personally, I don't even know if the show is still on the air, but my Diva of the Week nominee did a great job of putting his audition tape together for Dancing with the Stars. And it's Shabazz Synergy. Just after the hour and 22-minute mark, there's a point where he dances around that pocket like Fred Astaire, avoiding several sacks to make the pass. Unfortunately, there was a penalty on the play, but what he did in that moment, because what we're looking for is a diva moment, that's my Diva of the Week nominee.
Perfect. All right. Moving on to Benji. Benji, who is your Season 16 Week 6 Diva of the Week nominee?
I'm going to go to the number 1 Fort Worth Toros in their outburst this weekend. My Diva of the Week is a man who scored 2 touchdowns and had over 100 yards receiving on just 3 catches. Cade Stevens and his end of the first half Hail Mary is my choice for Diva of the Week. If you watch that replay, that ball bounces around in the end zone off of everyone, even off of the shoulder of the nearest defender, and Cade Stevens scoops that ball right out of the air before it hits the ground for 7 points at the end of the first half of Fort Worth, and they cruise to blow out San Diego. Cade Stevens is my Diva of the Week nominee.
There you go. All right, Bo Martin Jr., who is your Season 16 Week 6 Diva of the Week nominee?
So I was gonna go with Ezekiel Love. For those of you who saw that Arizona game where Ezekiel for Portland gave this life-changing stiff arm to Dede Sachs, and like literally, if I was Dede, I probably would have retired at that point. I was gonna give it to Ezekiel Love for that stiff arm, right? Because it was a pretty good stiff arm, and he ran it in for his 46-yard touchdown after that. But when I saw the end of that game, and I saw what Dede Sachs did to seal the deal for Arizona. Dede should have retired after that stiff arm, but he didn't. He didn't. He recomposed himself. He went over and talked to the psychologist on the sideline and said, "Oh my God, how can I make this right? What can I do? I feel less than a man after that stiff arm." And so the psychologist told Dede to get out there and make a play, and doggone if Dede didn't save the game. At the end of the game, when Portland was trying to drive after they just received the ball back, they were going to drive for potentially the game-winning touchdown. Dede Sachs sees the opportunity for a sack for a safety, sealing the victory for Arizona. After everything that happened to him in that game, That was Diva. He is my Diva of the Week, Dede Sachs.
That safety was definitely a Diva play. I agree with you on that one. All right, Tyler, I believe, is next. Tyler, who is your Season 16 Week 6 Diva of the Week nominee?
This man was called on 3 times in a row near the end zone where his team was looking to get back in the game, to maybe even look at tying the football game. This man gets a pass thrown to him about the 2-yard line. He just has to reach out his arm to cross the football across the end line, but he doesn't. He just falls out of bounds. Very next play, gets his number called again. He's right near the end zone, right in front of his quarterback, and he drops the football. Next, on the 4th down play, the very next play, he's calling for the football in the back of the end zone when there's a taller defender in front of him. complete, and his team unfortunately takes the loss. Then it was brought to me after maybe thinking that that might not be good enough for Diva of the Week. This man decides during a highlight in this man decides to say, you know what, my running back doesn't deserve to get a highlight reel. I need to be in the photo frame right now. He decides to sprint from all the way in the backfield to get in front of his running back just to say, I'm here. So, ladies and gentlemen, here in week 6, my Diva of the Week is none other than Dave Axis.
That's so stupid. Okay, I don't understand how any of those first 3 plays are Diva-ish. Can you explain that to anybody? Now, I understand the jumping in the camera for the scene part, the last part. How are any of those first 3 plays Diva-ish at all?
Because you just want to pad your stats. You got the ball thrown to you 3 times, so you might as well try and get 3 catches.
Didn't I just say I'm not Moses Malone at the beginning of the show? I just said that, and Cam was the only one who got that reference, by the way. That is terrible. You know what? Hold on a second. You're muted, and you're censored. Any other buttons I can push right now? That is terrible. Gunny, come save the show right now, please. Are you around? That was just terrible.
Well, I really wish you would have caught one of those balls into the end zone.
So do I.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, the first of those 3, I don't know why I just kept running out instead of just scoring a touchdown. I don't know, bro. You got muted. You got muted and censored, bro, in the chat. Yeah. Sorry, Gunny. Go ahead. Gunny, who's your season 16 week 6 Diva of the Week nominee? Please save the show.
Bob Funk as a defensive back with 4 interceptions. Also, I see David Harrell busted up himself for Diva moments at inside linebacker for the Toros. I love me some David Harrell. But I'm going to go with Mike St. Green's fill-in for Saturday afternoon games.
Good.
I'm going with the Cowboy, Robert Garrett Jr. as my Diva for his exemplary filling in for Mike St. Green this weekend.
That's a great one, too. Wow, that's 5 good ones so far. Well, I'm sorry, 4 good ones. Mr. 2 and 10. All right. Here's the deal. Those are all great. Those are all fine. Those are all cute. But here's the real Diva of the Week. Here's the real one. And you can't have Howard Cosell saying down goes Frazier without having someone from that game as your Diva of the Week nominee. Now, some people will say maybe Law for 2 picks or what have you. No, I already talked about it once. I'm going to talk about it again. 5 minutes left in the game. Houston up 31-23, punting the ball back to Denver. I think it was RQ, right? Riley Quintero was the punt returner. And number 29, Curtis White, just lights him up. Causes a fumble. Number 83, their tight end, Stephen Walker, picks it up. And then a couple plays later, like I mentioned, Warren Murray on a 16-yard touchdown that seals the game. So my Divas of the week are Curtis White and Stephen Walker for putting the nails in the coffin in Denver, on Denver, and taking Frazier down this weekend. So there you go. So we got Shabazz, Kate Stevens, Dede Sachs, Dave Axis for some ungodly reason, Robert Garrett Jr., and then the tandem of Curtis White and Stephen Walker from Houston. Those are your Season 16, Week 6 Diva of the Week nominees. And now we are going to move on to, you see how this show does not go very smooth when I'm the one working the panel. We are going to get rid of this. And I'm going to do a boom. How about that? How you like that, Tyler? As everybody knows, Tyler's show, along with Kendra Hall, is on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. It's called NETMA. And on Tuesdays, Tyler comes on to let us know what is next on NETMA. So, Tyler, take it away.
The updated brand new logo with both B and Kendra on that. So
Oh, I need the new one. Hey, listen,
You need the new one.
I had to build everything OBS from scratch because I was doing it on my end. So that's why some of the graphics are old. Well, I'll try to get it all fixed by Thursday, but for tonight, it is what it is.
There we go. So, next on NETMA, we have reached the halfway point of the season, so that can only mean one thing. It's time for the mid-season report cards. Who is leading the class and who needs an extra study hall or two? We'll find out tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern on NETMA.
Dude, you're doing that too fast. I'm trying to get Cam in the room here and get my stuff set up. You need to drag that out a little longer if I'm running the board from now on. That's going to have to be the way it goes. All right, that was next on NETMA. So tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Tyler's Twitch channel. I'm going to give a quick, brief update for all those who know about the Survivor Pool. It is now over $3,000. I think there was like 92 entries to start with. We are down to the final 10 people. It's Tom Rahman, myself, Johnny, Eagle, Yogi, Ray, Eddie Gage, and I don't know which Jack that is. I think it's Jack Wall, but I'm not 100% sure. The final 10. I just wanted to give a quick update. And I asked Johnny to send me some notes. So here's what he sent me. I'm just going to read what he said. Started with 92 entries. Coming into week 6, there were 49 entries. So 39 entries lost this week. A lot of them picking Denver, LA, Florida, and those teams. We are now down to 10, like I said, with still half a season to go. Fighting for $3,150. Last season, Eddie Gage and Eagle Mondavi won. They are the defending champs. And then he's going to give us an update week by week so I can let you guys know. And if you didn't get into it, make sure you get into it next season. I don't remember what the pot was last week. I'll ask Johnny, last season. I think it was only a couple thousand. I'm not even sure if it reached 2,000. So apparently lots of rebuys, lots more people playing, and a nice $3,000 pot there for the winners. So that being said, now let's move on to the After Dark portion. And we have a very special guest that will be audio only. I don't know if you guys have heard of this guy. He kind of runs things around here. Calls himself the commissioner or something like that. I don't know, whatever. So welcome to the show. I don't know, is this your first time, Mr. Cam Irvine?
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
I did that one already.
Oh, hey.
Did you really?
Did you do it tonight, Mike, or did you do it on another show?
Not tonight.
Okay.
It was an earlier show, and actually I said first-time listener, long-time caller.
Oh, there you go. Same. It is what it is.
It's a lie anyway, because I've been on this show like 20 times.
Yeah,
so
at least 20. Yeah, it's literally almost called Cam Live. So,
Dave, you haven't been too bad tonight doing both the hosting and the producing. It's something that I will be doing when I make my return to play-by-play this week.
Uh-oh. Well, that's a nice little announcement there for everybody that's listening. So you are back on. Do you already know which game you're doing, or can that not be announced yet?
I do. Charleston, LA. Come to Papa.
Oh, there you go. Hey. All right, that's look at that breaking news right here. I wish you had told me you were going to break some news. I would have added even more production issues to my.
Nah, well, I like to see who's loyal. Don't be showing up for no breaking news. Just show up for everybody else that's here.
That's right. That's a great point, Cam. All right, let's. I'm going to show the standings and the playoff stuff in a few minutes, and we'll talk about that. And Cam did send me a graphic, or like three.
The third one.
Three. You know what? I hope I got the right one on at this point. We'll see.
A little rusty.
I guess we'll know. And we'll discuss playoffs in a bit. But before we do that, I think I want to talk about probably what the most important thing that happened this weekend, or at least the biggest thing, is there's no more undefeated teams in this league anymore. When in the offseason, it was voted that we would move to Legends, and you knew it was going to be more competitive. Did you think you would have multiple teams still undefeated halfway through the season?
Well, I never think that a team is going to go undefeated, but the funny thing is that after watching Denver play for the first 5 weeks, I thought it could happen. So when St. Louis lost to London, which was still surprising, to some degree. I thought, well, a lot of people were saying that Denver was in a different class than St. Louis, so there you go. I can see it from that perspective. And then Denver lost, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Did that just happen? I just had a tornado warning, and then both undefeated teams just lost. This has been some day. Yeah, so so to answer the question, Dave, I never think we're going to have an unbeaten team. I thought we had a chance there with Denver, and then about a day after I thought, or 2 hours after I thought that, it was over.
What do you make of this Texas team? And I'm not talking about Houston, and I'm certainly not talking about Lone Star. I'm talking about Fort Worth. In the preseason shows, we talked about how tough the South, the Tex-Mex division, would be because it had 3 playoff teams from last season, and a lot of the kudos going to Lone Star and Mexico City with Fort Worth on the cusp. Houston is playing out of their mind lately, but Fort Worth 5-1 halfway through the season. Tell me about that.
Well, I think the big story, Dave, is their defense giving up 10.7 points per game. I'm gonna try to find an old sheet I have of a bunch of team stat records and stuff, but golly, 10.7 is not that many points. They may be approaching some sort of record for points given up, on average in a season. It's amazing to watch them play. You can't really blame San Diego for only scoring 3. Nobody scores against them, so you can blame them for giving up 42, but
Yeah.
you sure can't blame them for only scoring 3. And by the way, for reference, Denver was number 1 last season in points allowed with 19.3.
Wow.
So I mean, this is over a touchdown better than Denver. And I'm going season by season here, Dave, and I'll tell you, who the number 1 team was by the end of our conversation.
Okay. There's a question in the chat. I think it was Marco Swift asking if this was actually, if the Tex-Mex was one of the toughest divisions this season. I think it is. I think it's probably second. Do you still? I've heard you say before that you think the Atlantic is the toughest. Do you still think that?
No, not after looking at the tiebreakers and where everything sits 6 weeks through the season. All 4 South Division teams would make the playoffs today if they started today. So I have to go with the South on that one.
I think somebody in the pre-season specials that we were doing on this show before the season started actually predicted that. I'll have to go back and look. But did you think that with 6 different divisions and at least half the field coming from different divisions, it would even be possible to send 4 teams from one division to the playoffs this season?
I thought it was possible. I mean, obviously that's why instead of doing 4 divisions of 6, we wanted to do 6 divisions of 4, because we didn't want divisions to, depending upon which division you were in, to completely weigh you down or completely take you out of the running or I should say, it'd be a cakewalk, right? If you play all your games in your division and your division is just full of nobodies, then you got a pretty easy schedule, right? So I thought there would be a chance. Did I think it would be the South? Did I think Fort Worth would be leading this division as the only team that didn't make the playoffs in the division last year? No, I don't think anybody thought that. So, big accomplishment and ups to them.
I heard you and Mike St. Green talking about how many teams are 3-3, and I believe you guys said it was 9. So it's, it's what, over a third of the field, nearly half the field is 3-3. It's 500 through half the season. One of those teams, though, as we're talking about divisions, almost everyone predicted that the Pacific was Vancouver's to run away with or lose. They now sit at 3-3 after coming out the gate 3-0. They're now 3-3. And LA is actually running that division. Are you surprised by that? And what do you think is going on with Vancouver?
I'm a little surprised, but like I said in our game day wrap up this week, I just, LA's a great team, but they're so new. They're 6 games in, and I'm just not sure yet. Mike said I was undervaluing them. And maybe I am, right? And I'm sure they'll use it as bulletin board material or whatever. But you know, it's not that they lost to Queen City in Florida. It's how they lost. Who are Queen City and Florida? Two very experienced teams. They did beat Vancouver the first time, so they have a leg up on them. But it's just too early for me. Vancouver, it's the same old story, isn't it, guys? I mean, they play every great team really close and just can never get a win. And they're gonna have to figure this. How do we beat the best teams in the league stuff out? Or they're never gonna make a championship game or win a championship because they just keep getting, the teams just keep getting in their way, and it's 3 losses in a row to 3 really good teams.
Yeah.
And so I would imagine that the first team that's on Vancouver's schedule next that is under 500 is probably going to get whooped because that's what Vancouver does, man. And to their credit, I mean they
beat
make
the
you
teams they're
look like an
supposed to beat,
inferior
right,
team.
right,
Absolutely,
right.
absolutely. So,
well, we all know, especially I think like 15 different people in the Survivor pool, that Sioux Falls got their first win this week against a really good Florida team. That only leaves DC and San Diego left. Which of those 2 teams do you think gets their first victory first?
That's an interesting question. It's hard to say because I thought that DC would have gotten theirs by now already.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting to say. This week in particular, DC takes on Lone Star. Lone Star's got some big things planned for that game, and it's going to be hard to go in there and win, given those circumstances. San Diego's at Las Vegas, and right now, I don't know.
Vegas not looking that
lost
great.
4 in a row, right? They're not looking as explosive as they did earlier in the season. Their defense has really struggled. If San Diego can put some offensive pieces together this week, I don't know. So if you would have asked me every week of the season leading up to this, I would have said DC, but I don't know. I think San Diego's got the better opportunity, at least this week. In week 8, DC plays Florida and San Diego plays Denver. So, do what you want with that.
We're going to, before I pop up the division standings and the playoff rankings that we can talk about, do you think if you were doing the Cam Irvine power rankings, is Denver still the best team, or do they take a notch down and Baltimore's the best team? Is St. Louis the best team? Is Fort Worth the best team? Who would you put number 1 in your personal power rankings right now?
Defending champs, Baltimore, best team. I think that they had no business. I guess they had some business winning that game against Vancouver, but like you guys did, who did that recap? Was that all? No, it was Bo.
Which one?
Bo did Baltimore.
Baltimore's,
and Vancouver. Yeah, just like he said. Everything told you that Vancouver won that game, except the last 2 Tom Pepper passes were picked off by Giovanni Bolt. And that basically was it, because they traded blows with each other, and then Vancouver made the critical mistake down the stretch twice. So I think that Baltimore is still number 1. Denver is still number 2, but it's going to be interesting because Denver hasn't lost a home game in the regular season in 11 months. Did Houston show Denver's next opponents a method to possibly beat them? Right? Are they vulnerable? Portland plays them next. Portland played them really close. Last season, Jacob used to coach over there. That's going to be a national TV game, by the way, too. So big spotlight on Portland this week. And then, San Diego to follow, and then Atlanta to follow. So the interesting thing about Denver is nobody really had a beat on them until Baltimore spooked them last season. So now that they've lost in the middle of the season, how are teams going to respond? Even that loss to Seattle in season 14 was very late in the season at home. And so yeah, it's just going to be interesting if anybody can get a beat on them. So they're number 2 right now. But Fort Worth could easily dethrone them if Denver starts to slip a little bit.
I lied. I actually have one more question before we move on
Yeah.
to the.
And by the way,
yeah,
went through all the archives. Was kind of shocked and surprised by this. The number 1 scoring defense in league history for a season was in season 14. Shout out to the Charleston Predators.
Wow.
They gave up 16.8 points a game. So Fort Worth is over 5 points under the SFL record. That's how good their defense has been.
Wow. Yeah, Fort Worth definitely crushing it. Here's my real last question before we move on to the graphic that has the divisional standings and the playoffs. 2 up-and-coming teams that have been playing very well, Tulsa and London. I've heard you and Mike St. Green talk about Tulsa, but tell me about this London team, and if Tulsa and London, I don't know if they play or if they play each other this season, but who would you give the edge in that game?
Ooh, another good one. I would say that both teams have been inconsistent, but just in different ways. And by the way, they do play.
They do. I'm looking at it right now. I
in
just pulled
11 days.
Yep.
So,
In week
and
8.
actually, I just spoke with. So shout out here on a little teaser. I've been speaking with Espen Royale. He's a film director. He has shot a whole movie in Tulsa. And is looking to get it into some indie film festivals and all that stuff. I was just talking with him about debuting that trailer. We've talked about potentially showing an exclusive, first screening at the convention. But that game against London has been flexed to national TV, and we hope to debut that trailer at halftime of that game. I've seen it. It's going to be a really interesting movie. It's kind of more of a teaser than it is a trailer. But shout outs to our SFL community. We always try to support each other, and get our content out there. And he's working with our national television partners to try to get some commercial spots too. So that's going to be a huge game, Tulsa and London, for a lot of reasons. I would say right now I would give the edge to Tulsa because they've won 3 in a row and have been more consistent more recently. I think London was hot at the start of the season. They got a big win this week. But Tulsa's, it's just the way that they've won. They've kind of ground teams into oblivion. They won that game, Dave, last against DC with 208 yards of total offense. I can't remember the last time, and they won by 13.
And they won, yeah.
I can't remember the last time a team won with less than 250 yards of offense. And at the half, they had negative 11 rushing yards. What? I mean, it just crazy numbers. And they still got the win. So I like what they've been doing, maybe a little bit more consistently. And by the way, Robinson finished with 43 yards in that game, so negative 11 in the first half and then 54 in the second. So he was able to somehow bounce back against a defense that had his number and was ready for him. So, slight edge there.
All right, let's move on to the standings that were just released today. Hopefully this is the right version of the graphic.
Who looks at this and thinks that nothing can go wrong here,
I know,
right?
right?
We'll be just fine.
There's hardly any data on this thing anyway. My first question for you was going to be what stands out the most, but you kind of touched on that already with 4 teams from the South. I'm assuming no other team or no other division has 4 teams. Does any other division have 3 teams?
No, I don't believe so. I think everyone 4, 6, 8, 10, 12.
No,
nobody more than 2.
Okay. I think the thing that jumps out at me the most, and we just talked about them, and maybe I'm missing it, but Vancouver, as of today, does not make the playoffs?
That is correct. Yes, a 9-way tie at 3-3. Strength of victory knocks a crap ton of teams out of there. And there's some bad strength of victories right now in 3-3. Tulsa, I just gave them props. Their strength of victory is 167. That ain't going to get it done. They're going to have to win some more games and beat some good teams. Vancouver is just on the outside looking in at 389 compared to London and Atlanta, who's 444 right now. When you have 9 teams fighting for 4 spots, strength of victory is almost always going to wipe out the pretenders. But it's early, Dave. I mean, we've only got 6 games in. You see that no tiebreakers were decided by common games because you got to have 3, and we've only had 6 games throughout the season.
Right.
So common games is going to be a lot bigger down the stretch. Head to head, obviously, will be a lot bigger down the stretch as teams play each other. So a lot of just strength of schedule nonsense right now. But with divisions, it is a little simpler to try to figure out where everybody lies for sure.
So just remind everybody real quick. So the formula is the 4 division winners with the best records, they get the buys. The next 2 hold home field, and then the next 2 teams after that.
No, actually. So division winners clinch a playoff spot. So they clinch one of the 12 spots.
Okay.
It essentially protects and makes sure that every division winner at least gets to rep their division in the playoffs. But that's it. So being a division winner, number 1, it grants you a spot, and then number 2, if you're tied with another team. So, for example, in the 5 through 8 slot over on the right, Florida and LA are division leaders. They automatically are slotted higher than Mexico City and Jacksonville because they're division winners and the Aztecs and Kings are not. Whereas in the past, we would take that 4-way tie and do it just like everything else. But because Florida and LA are leading their divisions right now, they get those spots over Mexico City and Jacksonville.
So divisional winners is basically the first tiebreaker now.
It is the second tiebreaker when in the interdivisional tiebreakers. You'll see it down at the on the bottom right. So I'll give you an example, Dave. So if LA and Lone Star were the only teams at 7 and 5,
I see that. Okay.
If Lone Star beat LA, they would be ahead of LA. But if that didn't happen, then LA would be ahead of Lone Star because they won their division and Lone Star did not. So that's an example of how that could come into play.
Gotcha. As you're looking at this now, we're only halfway through the season. Like you said, there is a lot of ball to play still. And as we remember, just the end of last season, the playoff standings were changing week to week all over the place. As you look at this, though, give me a couple teams that you're feeling pretty confident will make the playoffs that, as of right now, are not in the playoffs.
And I'm glad that the chat is
what's that?
Pointing out some typos and some errors because that'll be edit 4 of the tiebreakers. I was talking with Tom Welsh, who runs social media, and I was telling him, you might not want to post this until the morning because we seem to be having some problems getting everything straight out the gate. So your question of who's not in the playoffs right now that I think definitely will be.
Yeah.
Let's see. Definitely will be. That's Vancouver says Vancouver's 4-2 over there too. That Pacific Division is jacked up. Let's see. I'm gonna go. Boy, that's tough. I mean, if I had to pick a 3-3 team that isn't in it that should be, I would go Vancouver. They have LA again. And LA's the only threat at the moment in that division. So if I was Vancouver, I'm 3-3. I'm 2 games back, but I'm only 1 game back in the division. I can make that up by beating LA in week 12. I still have San Diego on my schedule. And LA just faltered or just slipped up. And actually, they're only 1 game back in the division because I apparently am just blowing this. But yeah, I would say that they've that they have the easiest path. Whereas like in the East, you'd say, oh, you know what, Tulsa seems pretty good, but they've got Atlanta and St. Louis to contend to. Carolina and Charleston. The Atlantic Division is just a total mess. They're only one game back of their division too, but it's just such a good division. And Florida and Jacksonville are two proven organizations, whereas, like I said, LA is very new. And we'll see if they can hold on to it. I think the biggest winners this week was the West, because Denver was totally running away with that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 5-0. They were 3 games ahead of anybody else in their division, and now all of a sudden, Sioux Falls wins, Arizona wins, and now the division is tightening up a little bit. So, yeah, I'd probably go Vancouver by default, and then maybe like an Arizona, who's also got another division with a couple of teams down at the bottom.
I'm looking at that Atlantic division. Florida and Jacksonville we knew would be great. And I think somebody predicted 3 teams coming from this division. I believe this is the one you called the toughest division a few weeks ago. How do you feel about the Atlantic division now? And do you think that Carolina or Charleston will be able to sneak into the playoffs?
Yeah, man. Wow. What a total crapshoot. It's just crazy. Looking at how these divisional games stack up, because those are going to be huge down the stretch. All of the remaining divisional games in the Atlantic are in Week 10 and Week 12. Week 10, Jacksonville plays Carolina, and Florida plays Charleston. And Week 12, Carolina plays Charleston, and Jacksonville plays Florida.
Wow.
So that division, it's going to be crazy down the stretch. I'll give Carolina and Charleston some props. I mean, they're hanging in there. They're right in there with them. Neither team made the playoffs last year, but both are playing better. It's anybody's ball game. When you got all those divisional games packed in the last 3 weeks of the season, yeah, why not? It could really be anybody.
I'm also looking at the North Division. I think everyone would have said, hey, this is Baltimore's division. They're going to run away with it. London playing well, like we just discussed a few moments ago. But Queen City now with another W. Queen City win and a London loss. And all of a sudden, Queen City's back in the hunt.
Yeah, it's crazy. They are 3 games back. Queen City plays Baltimore in Week 9. That's a rematch game. Of course, Baltimore just blew the doors off them a couple of weeks ago. And that's why, if I'm Baltimore, I'm not too concerned right now. They've already beaten Queen City in London, and they don't play London again. So, Baltimore, as long as they don't hit some massive slump, they'll be okay. Now, they do have a very challenging non-conference schedule. Their last 4, or non-division schedule, I should say, their last 4 interdivisional games: Atlanta, Carolina, Lone Star, and Mexico City.
Wow,
that's pretty tough.
That's brutal.
That's a pretty tough slate. And so, if I'm Baltimore, I'm more worried about those games and making sure that they protect this North Division that they're 3 games ahead in right now with tiebreakers than I am any divisional games left on the schedule.
Last couple questions, and then we'll wrap this up. But let's keep focus on these standings, but let's turn our attention to Week 7 coming up real quick. As you look at Week 7's schedule, which games on the docket this weekend seem to have the biggest playoff implications? I see Vancouver-Jacksonville looks pretty good. There's one more I thought that was pretty good. St. Louis, Florida, maybe. Where do you go with that?
Yeah, St. Louis, Florida, and both coming off losses, upset losses too. So one of them is going to lose 2 in a row, and we're going to be reevaluating how we felt about them. That game is pretty huge. Charleston, LA is a big one.
Yeah.
4-2, 3-3. LA's trying to hold on to their divisional lead. Charleston's trying not to, fall back to the back of the pack. Vancouver, Jacksonville's huge. Low key, Denver, Portland is huge, like I was mentioning. Interesting to see what Portland is able to glean from what Houston did to them. Baltimore, Atlanta is a big deal. Atlanta is looking a little bit better. Those two teams have quite the history.
Yeah.
Atlanta can beat anybody any day. It's a great slate. This last week's slate on paper kind of looked ho-hum, didn't it?
It did.
A bunch of top teams playing a bunch of bottom teams, and then all the top teams lost.
Yeah, well, a lot of big spreads too. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So this week is totally different, which means we'll probably get a bunch of routes because that's how the world likes to curse us. But yeah, the slate looks really great. Even Louisiana, Houston is a big game. Both teams are coming off big victories and playing a lot better. How's that game going to look? Carolina, by the way, Carolina is at Queen City. I don't know how Carolina got Atlanta and Queen City back to back. But Carolina, just a bit of history on. Of course, I hit the wrong button. Now I'm just pulling a Dave.
Hey! I can hit a button right now and end this real quick.
Apparently my research sheet has been locked for some reason, so I can't even see it. But Carolina has never gone to Buffalo and won, ever.
Ever?
Forever.
Oh my God.
They have never actually. Wow. I can go to our website and I can figure it out. But yeah, Carolina, even though they're probably the favorites to go into Queen City and win, Carolina is, as I stall, take a breath, yada yada yada, blah blah blah. Oh, I'm sorry. They haven't won in Buffalo since March 19th, 2017. That is a whopping 4 years ago.
Wow.
And all time they are 1-5 there. So, yeah, I mean, just because they're the favorites doesn't mean that they've always fared successfully. And I remember that we said this on the broadcast that they hadn't beaten Atlanta in their series for like 3 or 4 years or whatever, and Harish said, that's history, we're moving on, and they lost 31-17. So we'll see if he says the same thing again this week and if he can prove that history wrong.
Well, there you go, Harish. All right, Cam, last question. Give us your first half of the season impressions. What stood out? Surprises? Anything, something you weren't expecting?
My overall impression is legend mode for the win. That's my impression. I think that the testing that the owners did and the sheer level of testing that was done to make that change be a responsible reality was terrific, and I think it's paid off in spades. I think seeing a team, I've talked with with some team owners over the past few weeks just about a lot of random different stuff, but I've also talked about legend mode. And to me, I don't know how you feel about this, Dave, but to me, teams have identities that are more easily defined by having players that play better in general overall, if that makes any sense. So what I mean by that is last year, Sioux Falls goes to Fort Worth. They get their heads ripped off, 51-17, and we all look around and go, what the hell was that? Right?
Right.
But there's no explanation. They just look terrible, right? Then this week, Houston goes to Denver and wins 38-23. We didn't leave that game going, what the hell was that? We left that game going, dude, Houston's defense balled out. They were ready for that game, right? And yes, I'm not trying to take anything away from Fort Worth. I'm not saying that Fort Worth shouldn't have beaten Sioux Falls. I'm just saying that in the way that it happened, it almost felt like Sioux Falls was not Sioux Falls. Like they just didn't even look like Sioux Falls. And it made for some bizarre blowouts and 50 burgers and sort of unhinged football, if that's a way to say it. I haven't seen unhinged football. I mean, blowout that Fort Worth had this week,
Right.
42-3, was controlled, right? Controlled chaos, contained. Fort Worth had 533 yards of offense, but they didn't have 680. And Williams didn't. Jason Williams, he had 170. He didn't go off for 290 or anything crazy, right? Like they had a great game. They played they played awesome, but it was all a lot more realistic. And I think it's paid off huge.
What do you make then of like a Sioux Falls team or a Queen City team or even a Louisiana team that's been really good in the past, really good as of recent? And let's take Sioux Falls, for example, and I think the answer is probably just other teams have gotten better. But Sioux Falls in particular, the only two things are different from last season. Jalen Wells is gone, and we're on legend setting. I don't know that a fullback is responsible for, several wins a season. So do you think in that particular case, and then maybe even with Queen City or Louisiana, that the legends setting has now had to force them to change their identity, like you were talking about a second ago?
Well, why would I even give an opinion on that? I'm just doing a Christopher Walken for Hawks Highway.
I was like,
because I'm a crowd.
I was like, I don't know who this sounds like yet, but please keep talking so I can figure it out.
And he wanted to know. He wanted to know what it would sound like, and this is what it would sound
ask
like.
for that? Oh, he did, right there. I heard him talk about impressions earlier. I didn't realize he actually asked for that. Wow. Well, we know you can do impressions from when you did your one show and did Coach and me and Ashley and everybody. So
I'm probably a B- impressionist. I do a mean Bill Cosby too, but it is After Dark. But the After Dark logo isn't up, so we probably shouldn't do it.
I can make that happen in about I don't know, maybe 7 minutes at the rate I'm going. Hold on.
I do a mean Bill Clinton.
There you go. Hey you.
I think if you look at I haven't done this. Someone out there will do this research. If you take every 40-plus yard run away from running backs in season 15, you would see the numbers that you're seeing now. I think that's the difference. And I think what we're seeing is that Sioux Falls and Louisiana, in particular, right, that have struggled out of the gates.
Yeah.
I don't think that we all realized, nor did they, how much they relied on Hart or Streeter just getting them 14 points. Just going out there, breaking 2 runs, picking up 120 yards, and being great, right? That's gone. You don't just break out willy-nilly, break 5 tackles, and then you're out of here, right? Those things happen once a game if you're lucky, right? I think Keith Swearingen had 2 of them against DC. I can't remember a running back to have 2 of them other than that this season. And so I think that's the difference. I don't think that they're necessarily worse players. I just don't think that the defense is so out of position or so nerfed that they can't step up and make a play. And I think if you went back and you took out every 40-plus run from every running back last season, there would be a lot more balance on the rushing leaderboards than maybe there were. And I think that you're seeing the teams struggle the most are the teams that most relied on those long runs to get them wins and to pad the stats, for better or for worse.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you're watching the chat, but you just got nominated for Diva of the Week for your impression. amazing. All right. I think that's going to be a wrap, folks. Cam, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you gave us like a half an hour worth of stuff, so we appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Always, bro. Always. All right, everybody. That's a wrap. Special thanks to Cam again for coming on in After Dark. To the panelists, Mike All, Benji Matson, Bo Martin Jr., and Tyler Falk. Don't forget to hit up Netma, 8 p.m. tomorrow night. Thanks to all of you in the chat. You know, I love you. I love the back and forth. I love the comments, the questions, especially in the corrections, but especially tonight because they were mostly for Cam. I always love when you guys correct Cam. That makes me feel like I'm doing a better job. So thank you, SFL Nation. Appreciate it. You post too much. Bo Martin Jr. All right, everybody. Thanks again. He's crazy. Hey, Bo Martin Jr., you better be in that booth from now on. That's like night and day difference, bro. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Long show, but it was worth it. We got a lot of detail out of Cam, a lot of good info, and we got half a season left still. So stay tuned. Who knows what fireworks are coming over the next 6 weeks. So goodbye, Mike All in the Brady Bunch circle. Appreciate that. Everybody have a great and glorious Wednesday. I'll see you right here back Thursday night, 9 p.m. on Twitch when I see you at the tees.